Guilty. The verdict today against Letitia Stock, the woman from Colorado Springs who murdered her 11-year-old stepson Gannon in 2020.
Well, the trial took more than a month. The jury needed only 7 hours over 2 days to come to their decision. Our 9 News crime and justice reporter Matt Jablow was there in the courtroom as the verdict was read.
3 years after she killed her stepson in cold blood, a crime whose brutality and senselessness shocked countless people in Colorado and throughout the country, Letitia Stock showed absolutely no emotion when the judge in her murder trial read the jury's verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant Letitia Stock guilty of count number 1, murder in the first degree after deliberation.
On January 27, 2020, Stock shot, stabbed, and killed her 11-year-old stepson Gannon in their home in Colorado Springs. She then put his body in a suitcase, drove to Florida, and tossed it over a bridge. Prosecutors said Stock was trying to hurt her husband, whom she was planning to leave. But Stock's attorney said she was legally insane when she brutally attacked Gannon, and therefore should be found not guilty by reason of insanity. Clearly, the jury disagreed.
I am Landon, Gannon's mom, and that will never change. Through my hurt, anger, and pain, I will never be the monster that she is.
After Stock was found guilty and before Judge Gregory Werner sentenced her to the mandatory life in prison without the possibility of parole, Gannon's parents described the anguish caused by his death.
I never in my wildest dreams would have ever thought you'd be in danger, buddy, or I know I wouldn't have not left you. At home with what turned out to be your murderer and the last person to ever see you on this earth.
In Colorado Springs, Matt Jablow, 9 News.
Letitia Stock chose not to speak during today's proceedings. Now she again facing that maximum sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole.
For the first time since a student shot 2 deans at East High School about 6 weeks ago, we hear from one of the shooting victims. Dean Wayne Mason talks about what happened that day, the day that a 17-year-old took his own life while running from police. 9 News reporter Katie Eastman joins us from Mason, just finished speaking. And Katie, it sounds like we're hearing a very different account about what actually happened that morning.
Yeah, we absolutely are. First of all, Dean Wayne Mason told us that weeks before the shooting, another student saw Austin Lyle with a gun, and when staff was going to search him, he ran out of the school. On the day of the shooting, Wayne Mason said Austin was allowed back in, and despite calls to the assistant principal and security, there were no answers. And so Wayne's fellow dean, Eric Sinclair, brought Austin back to their office. Then Wayne says Eric called for help and he found Austin and Eric wrestling. At that point, he said Austin fired several shots, hitting both deans. Then Austin stood up, pointed his gun toward them, and ran. Wayne said he grabbed towels and put pressure on Eric's wounds and prayed. He is thankful there were paramedics in the other room. Later that day, we know Austin took his own life. Wayne wishes he could tell his former student one thing.
The moment Austin pulled that trigger, I forgave him. The regret that I have right now is that he is not here for me to tell him that, and I wish he was. And I just want his parents to know that I do forgive Austin for what happened that day.
We have not yet heard from the second dean who was shot that day, Eric Sinclair. And despite officials previously telling us that the deans were patting down Austin, Wayne Mason insists that never happened. That is not what was happening when they were shot. Wayne says there need to be procedures in place so that something like this can't happen again.
Well, he certainly told a very different version of what happened, but what a powerful message he sent to those parents, and in just describing everything and how it happened.
Yeah, it's the first time we're hearing this weeks after this happening. I think everybody here was just listening so intently, and when he said that he forgave Austin, that was an incredibly powerful moment.
Yeah, well, everybody needs to listen to him, especially as they talk about the changes that are coming. Thank you, Katie. Let's take a live look out from the Elitch cameras Elitch's is open. Did you know that?
I did not know
It
that,
is
but
open.
it's good to know.
And this last weekend would have been a good weekend. It would have been nice. There's a few clouds out there right now, and it kind of looks like something's happening somewhere.
Yeah, Kathy, a lot of sunshine today, but one of those Colorado afternoons, we might see things change pretty soon.
You know what? It looks like it's going to be active, you guys, but it's pretty quiet out there. Only isolated storms to worry about just to the east of Denver tonight, and that'll be the case again tomorrow. The weather becomes more active on Wednesday and probably even into Thursday. So to start off the week with sunshine and mid-70s, there's some beautiful cumulus clouds out there. Yeah, there may be an isolated rain shower early or rumble of thunder. Severe weather threat very low today across Colorado. We had some snow over the weekend over some of the higher peaks. It's beautiful there now. And 70 currently in Denver, 81 in Lamar, 71 in Eagle, 63 in Steamboat. Winds have been picking up a little bit. You saw in Katie's shot there out of the south, and we'll kind of watch that south to southeast flow, bringing in a little bit of humidity, but not enough to make a dent in the high fire danger. Red flag warnings continue through tomorrow evening for the western and southern suburbs of Denver, I-25 down to the New Mexico line for winds to 30 and relative humidity value as low as 10%. We have winds ramping up out of the south ahead of a weather system that will cross the state in about 48 hours time. Tonight, the best chance for rain will be in the next couple of hours. We can see really just isolated activity along this line that extends from just north of Colorado Springs out to the south of Sterling. Storms are moving pretty quickly off to the east and northeast coming off the foothills. Pretty typical springtime weather pattern that we're looking at right here. And the severe weather, we're really watching for St. Louis and areas west of Dallas and Houston tonight. Denver's really in that general thunderstorm category, and that's what we're seeing on Futurecast. Skies will clear tonight. We get a sunny day tomorrow. The warmest day of the week coming up with highs near 80. And so we'll talk all about that with the extended forecast, which does include the potential for some thunderstorms on Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay, it is May.
It is May.
Yesterday I was driving and literally for like half a mile it rained and that stopped.
Yep.
That was it. It was weird.
And then like some places down south, my house, not a drop. You know, would have loved to see some rain. So, yep.
It's all on the table, though, this month. All right. Thank you, Kathy. We'll see you in a few minutes. The former Tattered Cover CEO, as well as a former Denver mayoral candidate, Kwame Spearman, announced today that he'll be running for DPS's at-large board seat this November. The only seat up for grabs this year is held by the incumbent board vice president, Ayante Anderson, whose progressive ideology clashes with Spearman's center-right politics that caused some friction with Tattered Cover customers during his mayoral campaign. Of course, Spearman was one of 17 candidates on the ballot running for Denver mayor in the election cycle before dropping out on March 16th. In April, Spearman stepped down as the CEO of Tattered Cover to focus more on politics.
We now know the names of 4 people who died in a plane crash in Teller County over the weekend. Bruce Claremont, Lori Aves, Roger and Catherine Duncan, all from Florence, Colorado, were killed Saturday night when their plane crashed near the Fremont County line. The sheriff's office said they first heard about the crash Sunday morning when another pilot spotted the plane and called it in. The FAA says the plane was flying from Fremont County Airport to Centennial Airport.
Governor Polis's controversial land use bill has been resurrected. Now it's going back to the state Senate today. Originally, the bill was going to give the state more power over zoning by forcing certain cities and towns to allow denser forms of housing. Right now, those things are determined on a local level. It's even been an issue for local control. The bill's supporters argue that the changes are necessary to try to sustain growth. The Senate gutted the land use bill the last time they read it, removing the density requirements and focusing on forming a state board to assess affordable housing needs and future plans. House Democrats sent the bill back to the Senate after re-adding density requirements and other aspects that had been cut out the first time. So now the Senate trying to consider those amendments. And this is the last day of Colorado's first legislative session. As it wraps up, here's where things stand. According to the State Office of Legislative Legal Services, there were 617 bills introduced over the session, and of those bills, 180 have become law, with only one becoming law without the governor's signature. More than 70 are waiting to be signed.
The state of Colorado and U.S. Department of Agriculture are teaming up to encourage farmers to conserve water. They revealed and signed a new agreement at the state capitol today. The agreement's goal is to get farmers to use less water while still keeping up production and making sure rural communities that rely on agriculture to fuel their economy don't suffer. Democratic Senators John Hickenlooper and Michael Bennet talked about the importance of the agreement when it comes to meeting climate goals and appealing to the people who have worked this land for generations.
We have to give farmers and ranchers more flexibility to conserve water and fairly compensate them as we face a 1,200-year mega drought across the American West, and give them the chance to be able to pass their farms and their ranches to the next generation of Coloradans.
This agreement's part of the USDA's larger Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, which is aimed at curbing climate change.